box, and over on SHIZUKI's side does have that Latias EX prize. That's a very useful tool against some of the shenanigans Riley can do with something like the Screamtail, and Squawkabilly, which can always be a bailout, unavailable as well.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the Squawkabilly in this variant specifically, because we see that some of the players who are sometimes playing the version with this Noctowl engine, of course, with the Jewel Seeker, opt to cut the Squawkabilly. It's something you tend to see more in the Turbo variants, but as a bailout option turn 1, can still be very handy, so makes sense to see it here. Unfortunately for SHIZUKI, not going to be able to access it in this game.
The tension is building up. The winner of this match will compete tomorrow in our arena for Championship Sunday. Let's get things underway. Masters Division Top 4A. Only one can be victorious. Let's see the starts. Who's going first? There is no better feeling in the Pokemon TCG right now than starting your one of Ditto and using that ability Transformative Start to get any Pokemon you so choose out of your deck.
Yeah, not just any start, the start of the transformative variety. On the first turn of the game, if it's in the active spot, you can send it to the discard pile and replace it with any basic Pokemon from your deck. So you can pick the perfect starter Pokemon for whatever's in your hand. So if you've got a Van Rotom already, you can grab like one of your EXs or the other way around. It's such a great thing to start with, so flexible, and extra benefit as well in this variant of the deck, because you can go ahead and search it with that Fan Rotom. It can be a way to search for a Teal Mask Ogerpon to enable your engine, even if you don't have a Nest Ball in hand.
Looks like there are a couple other basic Pokemon in the hand here for SHIZUKI, so I'm interested to see what this transforms into, and I like this a lot here. Understands the importance of that Raging Bolt with the Thunderburst Storm, and even has just the Fan Rotom in hand, so we're going to see an excellent start here for SHIZUKI. Picture perfect. A bunch of these Pokemon down. The Hoot getting that Jewel Seeker ready for next turn, and even a Noctowl if there isn't one already in the hand.
Yeah, really nice setup, but yeah, it looks like either one already in the hand and one is to get another one, or just wanted to get that first one there. Good to have one in reserve, even if you do end up getting hit with an INO, you know, at least then you have 3 more in the deck you can go for, or I guess, or is it 2 more in the case of a SHIZUKI? Yeah, playing the free line there. Either way, got to be feeling pretty good about his start here.
Is a Teal Mask Ogerpon in the hand? I think we'll most likely see that come down. Just protects against it from Iono eventually happening. There is a Grass Energy too, and importantly, the turn 1 attachment, very crucial onto that Baby Raging Bolt.
This is pretty much as ideal a start as you could ask for if you're playing Raging Bolt against Gardevoir. As we've talked about a couple of times already, with that Thunderburst Storm attack, the Raging Bolt can really do a little bit of control on Gardevoir's side of the field in terms of being able to knock out any Rolts on the bench, because 1 energy already on there, that's 30 damage you can do to something. You can get 2 more on with a manual attachment and something like a Crispin or a Professor Sada's Vitality. Suddenly you're doing 90 damage to any one of your opponent's Pokemon, and that is enough to KO a Rolts.
See how Riley can respond to pretty threatening board setup so far from SHIZUKI. No better way than just to get rid of some energy cards from your hand with the Earthen Vessel and search the deck. Gonna take this opportunity to check the prize cards, see what's available. We'll note, of course, that Secret Box is in the prize cards, and there is a 4/4 Monkey Dory line in this. So even though a Dark Energy is prized, we're going to be seeing some monkey business in this top 4.
We're seeing a lot of monkey business, and to be fair, monkey business is what has gotten Riley through so many tournaments and top cuts that we've seen already, so no surprise that he wants to go with his full complement of 4. I mean, if Adrenabrain wins games, surely more Adrenabrain just wins even more games. That would be the logic, right?
Absolutely, and this is an interesting choice here. Off that Earthen Vessel, choosing to not grab any Darkness Energy. I actually wouldn't mind to see, usually early on in this deck, you want to use the Psychic Energy on these Monkey Dories, so TM Evo, and then you can retreat it off. However, SHIZUKI's kind of, you know, projecting a very clear use of that Thunderbolt Storm onto a benched Kirlia once it gets evolved. So I would really potentially like to see that Dark Energy come down into the active, because you essentially give your opponent a little bit of a more difficult ultimatum in which you're okay with both of the options. And there it is. Arven will guarantee that Technical Machine evolution, as well as another Earthen Vessel. So Riley may actually be planning to do exactly that and put the Darkness Energy on. Has enough basic Pokemon to not need to grab something like a Nest Ball off of this search.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to work out for him, and very important to get both of them down as well, because with that threat of the Raging Bolt established, if you only get 1 Rolts down, you know, and even if you evolve it into Kirlia, it won't have enough HP to survive a Thunderburst Storm. So very, very smart here that Riley's able to put this together just to protect himself from a really disruptive Thunderburst Storm.
Both Kirlia in the deck, and immediately evolved thanks to the technical machine evolution. Picture perfect start for both of these players. It now comes down to how the dynamic of these 1 and 2 prize Pokemon interacting with each other is really going to have an effect. A big note between the changes that Riley has made now versus what he had played at NAIC. There is no longer that Shaman in play.
Oh,
Shaman is no longer in Riley's deck list. He's made a couple changes, maybe taken a little bit of inspiration from Isaiah Bradner playing that 4th Monkey Dory. That means the Thunderburst Storm is going to be able to have a lot more control in terms of targeting these bench Pokemon on Riley's side.
Yeah, a lot of the times, one of the main reasons behind playing that Shaman, there is other stuff as well, of course, but that Thunderburst Storm is one of the big things you're scared of. So I guess Riley taking the decision that that deck slot is more worth it as something else, even if it does mean that this Raging Bolt can start to pick up some prizes in the early game, because eventually you can deal with it, and it's not like you can consistently, or at least easily consistently, hit back-to-back with it, and just deciding that other matchups are more worth considering.
Action now on Shizuki. We'll start things out with Earthen Vessel. Folks are considering what should be played first. It will be Earthen Vessel down. Now comes the tough part. A lot of solid choices in terms of, you know, cards that you want to keep in hand. We'll have to get rid of Pheasantipity. There is that Night Stretcher at the top of the prize card, so you will have a little bit less access to recovery down the line, though there really hasn't been anything too disruptive in terms of resources being discarded. Squawkabilly has not been used. It will not be used this game. So we see Lightning and Fighting put to the hand. Now the question becomes, are you going to commit more to this? And it looks like just grabbing that as spotter for the Professor Sada, and we'll most likely see Raging Bolt EX come down into play, so that Vitality from Professor Sada can power up both of these ancient Pokemon.
Yeah, so Professor Sada's Vitality, really the engine that makes this deck, makes this deck tick. So say that 3 times fast, but it is when you play it, you can choose up to 2 of your ancient Pokemon, attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to each of them, and then if you attach any energy this way, you draw 3 cards. So it's energy acceleration, it's draw power, it's what makes this deck as strong as it is.
So there it is, Lightning Energy onto this active Pokemon, fighting to the bench, 3 additional cards drawn. I've not seen something like a Teal Dance yet. Grass Energy in hand means that is an option. However, gotta wonder if that last energy card still needs to be put onto this active Pokemon, since right now that Thunderburst Storm doing 30 damage for each energy attached to it, and I think making a smart choice here, not gonna try and risk it off the 1 draw. Gonna go ahead and use that Thunderburst Storm, 30 damage snipe for each energy attached to that Pokemon. Perfect math. Curlia goes down. We'll see how Riley responds. Earthen Vessel is a great way to start, since if you weren't attaching Dark Energies before, you're definitely going to want to now.
Yeah, it's easy to tunnel vision, right? When you're thinking, oh, of course, I can use Teal Dance, I can draw another card, but very sensibly realizing, nope, I need to guarantee this energy attachment to make sure I can KO this Curlia. So no, it's not falling victim to like the tunnel vision trap that we have seen happen sometimes on stream.
Will be the Darkness Energy paired with a Psychic Energy. So 2 energy already in the discard pile, plus the energy off the Monkey Dory can retreat. So even something like Gardevoir EX this turn, pending, you know, the resources available. We know it is in the hand and will get evolved. So here we go. We'll see exactly what choice Riley wants to make in terms of, you know, committing cards. Understands the technical machine evolution is getting no value in this matchup. Wants to just get it out of the hand, get it out of the deck, and playing Iono. So both players shuffle their hands, put them to the bottom, and each will draw cards based off how many prizes they have left. Riley 6, Shizuki 5 cards.
And it's a pretty decent 6 from Riley there. Another Psychic Energy to get into the discard pile. Monkey Dory as well. We do see that Rare Candy. Of course, I don't really need that anymore, given that you're able to get the Gardevoir out. So can go ahead and use that as a very easy discard fodder, I suppose. But just going to go ahead and discard the, it looks like a Monkey Dory and a Psychic Energy.
It is the Monkey Dory, prioritizing keeping the Rare Candy for later on. You never know when your Gardevoir is going to get knocked out. So a little bit of a tough choice. You need to keep the Iono. You want to keep the Dark Energy down the line. So Monkey Dory will be the choice. That means, you know, it may take a little bit more effort to get a second Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain online. And with Screamtail being grabbed, Freya, now snipe damage anywhere. Is there a specific target you think would be best in a spot like this?
I mean, Hoot feels pretty good, right? It just cuts off a Jewel Seeker access option for Shizuki, and Jewel Seeker is really what makes this deck run as smoothly as it does. So yeah, I like hitting the Hoot here, just to take this out, and then you're not really worried anymore about Jewel Seeker next turn.
Yeah, this is interesting. I potentially would like to see an extra energy be Psychic Embraced onto this Screamtail. There's a decent chance that this Gardevoir EX can get knocked out this turn. So just being able to put an extra energy so that no matter what, you can take another snipe KO is never a bad option. This also works as well. Put some damage counters onto this Gardevoir and slowly set up this line in the matchup where you're going to use Adrenabrain, over time to tick damage up on the fan Rotom, and assuming it's not discarded in some factor, you can essentially take a free KO down the line once you're using enough of these Adrenabrain abilities.
Yeah, just that one damage there, all that's needed, because then 2 more Adrenabrains for 30 will fetch the KO on that fan Rotom later on. So very clever maths from Riley there, showing why he's as experienced and proficient with this Gardevoir deck as he has already proven to be through the wins he's already achieved. Earthen Vessel now being fired off for SHIZUKI, discarding that Koraidon. Not going to be a great attacker in this matchup, so makes a lot of sense to get rid of that. Fetches a Lightning Energy, that's going to fill the rest of the attack cost for the Raging Bolt EX, and another Grass Energy to keep the Teal Dance chain going.
And this is now an interesting spot for SHIZUKI. You're kind of at a crossroads here in what you want to do. Do you go after Gardevoir EX? There's no Ralts in play, so Psychic Embrace is not a threat the following turn. Or you continue to try and use this Thunderburst Storm and even consider, do I attach another energy to this active and KO the Monkey Dory? If I can shut off Adrenabrain, then this extra prize the fan Rotom could be providing down the line may not be an option. And with that not being a factor in the prize trade, I could very well be ahead if I save my resources well enough.
I do like a Thunderburst Storm on the Monkey Dory here. We were just talking about what a powerful ability it is and how it really is the make or break factor for Gardevoir being as strong as it is. So why not just take it out, deny that extra Adrenabrain option, because you can't get more than one Adrenabrain online each turn, so taking out Monkey Dory does mean it's an extra 30 damage that can't be moved across as the game goes on.
So Nest Ball, the item being played right now for SHIZUKI, is just going to go and check how he can manage this bench. We have not seen an Area 0 come down yet, so the big advantage of playing this Teal Mask in the deck is not only to accelerate those energy cards, but also with the help of that Area 0 Underdepths, you would get to extend your bench by 3 Pokemon, which really makes a big difference once you factor in a lot of these support Pokemon. We'll see another Raging Bolt get benched, and there is the Crispin. So we'll see, at this point, if SHIZUKI does not have something like a Prime Catcher this turn, it seems almost certain we'll see that 4th energy come down into the active. So there is the Grass and Lightning. Grass can come to hand, and we're actually going to see the Lightning Energy accelerated, so no attachment just yet, so we won't count options out, but just wants to prepare these Raging Bolts just in case there's a counter catcher. And the biggest card of this matchup, Lily's Clefairy, that changes the entire dynamic of how one-hit KOs can go.
Yeah, absolutely does. We were talking in SHIZUKI's top 8 game about how making sure you have multiple Raging Bolt EX ready with at least one energy on so that you can power one up and use another supporter while still being able to use Bellowing Thunder makes a huge difference. So SHIZUKI being a little bit proactive with that, keeping that in mind, having one energy on each of the Raging Bolt EX keeps his options open so that he knows that maybe if there's a turn where he really needs to use boss's orders, he can do that and still take a knockout without having to worry about committing his supporter to being Asada's Vitality.
I'm just debating where to put the energy for turn. Thinking about it. I think I like this play, SHIZUKI.
I think
Get
it's the
this
move.
energy here. He's debating. I mean, the value in KOing Screamtail, it just, for the cost of an extra energy being put in play, it really just feels like it's 100% worth it. So we'll do that exact play. Monkey Dory goes down. Raging Bolt taking off the prize cards. SHIZUKI regains the lead. Riley is left with just a few cards to navigate, but does top deck the other Monkey Dory.
Oh my goodness.
That is exactly what you want to see. So not getting punished at all for discarding that off the Ultra Ball will be rewarded by the best possible top deck, another Adrenabrain online, and also going to disrupt SHIZUKI now down to just 4 cards. And a big reminder, no Hoot Hoot in play, and there's no Area 0 Underdepth. So some of those options for SHIZUKI at this point are a little bit off the table and being shut down currently.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit rough for SHIZUKI to try and navigate this with such a low hand card size, and as you already mentioned, no access to any Jewel Seeker. I think it's important to mention as well for SHIZUKI, I think he was always going to do an attack on the Monkey Dory. I think he was debating which energy to attach onto the active, because there was a Lightning and a Grass in hand. Opting to go for the Grass instead, yes, it means that you can't use it for Teal Dance later, but it means that you have one more Fighting or Lightning energy in deck to power up one of these 2 Raging Bolts, which I think, in my eyes, is more important to preserve.
So Artisan being played by Riley just gets to search through the deck, see if there is basic Pokemon that is worth being benched. Another last Monkey Dory available is in the hand, right? We have 2 in the discard pile. Last one is in hand for Riley, but I'm not really sure there's a whole lot else going on in terms of supporters. So at some point, may have to consider if it's worth putting a liability in play, like the Pheasantipity, just to draw a couple more cards, is going to actually just fail the Artisan. So just putting it into play, not using it, and deciding if there's, maybe better Pokemon to use for those bench slots. One of those will be the Night Stretcher for the Ralts. There is one in the prizes, so unable to search that last one out. Psychic Embrace number 3 used onto the Scream Sail, so it's now doing 120 damage. and I think it's finally time to take care of this Raging Bolt. It's got way too many energies on it. With that Adrenabrain, perfect math for the KO, as Riley ties things up 4-4. SHIZUKI, though, still in the driver's seat, and you've always got to keep tabs of what resources are available, mainly that Prime Catcher, because it means that same turn you can power a Pokemon up, you can also deal big damage to one of those EXs in play.
Yeah, that's one of the two ways to make it so that you can get an attack going whilst also gusting at the same time. Either make your gusting an item card, that being the Prime Catcher, or prepare yourself by being able to use boss's orders by pre-empting energy attachments onto your Raging Bolts. Either way works. I mean, now at least, if you do need to make use of that Sada that's 3 extra cards drawn, maybe use that to find the Prime Catcher, but there's no doubt about it, this turn, SHIZUKI wants to target down that Gardevoir EX no matter what.
We'll start getting the Hoot Hoot down. Now is a better time, right? The Scream Tail from here on out may not have as much value as Riley could be a little bit more concerned with just trying to go 2-2 from here to take the last 4 prizes. And here we go, Professor Sada's Vitality. Big turn here for SHIZUKI. If SHIZUKI can find this Prime Catcher, it seems like the prime opportunity to just go after Gardevoir EX, knock it out, and then from there, if Riley ever wants to put Gardevoir EX into play again, it then becomes a risk to be KO'd on the following turn. So
I see what you did there, and I appreciate it.
A little, you know, I got to sneak in a little bit of fun here for this finals match. It's a little bit straightforward, but these things are still important. So we've yet to see the teal dance. So if there's ever a one-time, if you're ever going to use your one-time, this is pretty solid.
That's it. What was that? No, not quite. Now with the Area Zero Underdepths in play, you can go ahead and bench a sick Pokemon, that being the second Teal Mask Ogerpon. Another Teal Dance, but looks like just finds another Grass Energy, or was it an Ogerpon? Either way, neither of those are Prime Catcher.
Another Ogerpon. So look, you're flooding the board with more energy cards, always useful down the line later, but the still big piece is missing. If you push yourself to 3 prize cards, Riley is in a very realistic way to win, especially if this Monkey Dory is not going to be contested, since even as soon as this turn, Fan Rotom can be KO'd.
Yeah, it absolutely can. So you really have to bear that in mind. Oh, but here we see the Chen Pao coming in with that Snow Sink ability, can discard any stadium in play, and you can use this. It's a great way to clear stuff off your board, and more importantly, we were just talking about moving the damage over with the Adrenabrain. The one way to prevent that, just discard that Fan Rotom.
Yeah, absolutely. Understands giving up easy free prizes in this matchup is not going to cut it if you're trying to take down a powerhouse like Gardevoir EX. The other question now becomes, what other Pokemon are you going to discard? Noctowl is probably the easy option. And you can just discard the GM Pao. So, it seems pretty standard, pretty content. But actually, instead, it's just going to go in with the Fan Rotom, take the KO. So, sure, you're putting up a 1-prize Pokemon, but if your opponent just has the ability to use 2 Adrenabrains this turn, they can forcefully KO this active, and then no matter what you promote, it feels like they're still going to have a good line, especially with something like Night Stretcher to bring back the Scream Tail, KO the Hoot Hoot. I have to wonder here for SHIZUKI, is he thinking this far ahead, or really just trying to use 1-prize Pokemon when it doesn't necessarily make the most sense? It's tough, though. There's a lot of things you have to balance in a situation like this.
Yeah, there absolutely is, and I'm sure there's something, there's a game plan in mind that SHIZUKI's considering that perhaps we're just missing right now. So we'll have to see how the rest of the game plays out. In the meantime, we are over back to Riley, who discards a Rare Candy with that Earthen Vessel, finds 2 more Psychic Energy, and gets them straight into the bin with that Ultra Ball. So that discard pile is very nicely set up with a bunch of Psychic Energy for all the Psychic Embrace that Riley might want.
So currently looks like no Dark Energy in the hand. I could have potentially actually grabbed one off of the... This is really interesting, because there was the Earthen Vessel and the Super Rod in hand, so decided to use Earthen Vessel before Super Rodding these Pokemon back in, thus meaning there may actually not be a Dark Energy to have grabbed out of the deck. And I feel with already having the Monkey Dory...
There was 2, so one shuffled that in, but there's definitely another one in the deck there, so yeah, let's... So I think just valuing setting up the Psychic Energy in the discard pile more.
Interesting choice. Does not want to set up the second Monkey Dory. This may mean that the Fan Rotom is the target of choice for a KO. Does not need to put more damage counters on these Pokemon. As, interestingly enough, to draw 3, we're not going to see Pheasantipity do its job, but instead the Mew EX restart to fill the hand up. 1 open bench space. What are the 3 cards? Oh
my goodness. Professor's Research, the last card off of the restart. What a draw.
Crazy plot armor here for Riley. It seems that whenever he needs cards to come into his favor, they magically appear. There's the Artisan, so going to actually bump this Stadium, and this is a little bit awkward, coming from this point, because again, you're not discarding the Fan Rotom. We'll see the Professor's Research be played. 7 fresh cards drawn. Have to really be looking for a Darkness Energy, and does find the Dark Energy, as well as the Ultra Ball, but doesn't even need it, because again, that Screamtail was shuffled back into the deck thanks to Super Rod, and the Artisan can grab it if it has not been used yet.
Yeah, so really great find there from Riley. The Professor's research at the perfect time off of that restart. Now we're going to see the Artisan being fired off, and you got to imagine it's going to be for the Screamtail here. Oh,
yeah, it could be for the Screamtail, but honestly, in this spot, if you can just take a KO using the Lily's Clefairy while also taking a KO with Adrenabrain on the Fan Rotom, what's that really do? Did we just see... that's not how the card works, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, hold on a second.
all right. We're going to see this fail Ultra Ball, and this is exactly what I was talking about. If you can just use this Lily's Clefairy to hit Raging Bolt for weakness, take a 2-prize KO, and then use this 2 Adrenabrain abilities to KO the Fan Rotom as well, you can essentially checkmate the game. Because of that Hoot being on the bench, you're just a Screamtail snipe away from winning the game. Riley's going to do exactly that here.
There it is. Counter Catcher going to bring up that Raging Bolt to EX. So with the Lily's Clefairy down, of course, its ability makes all Dragon-type Pokemon have Psychic weakness, so you can come in with that. And the Full Moon Rondo is going to get the KO on this Raging Bolt and leave Riley just 2 prize cards away from winning this first game.
We'll have to use one more Psychic Embrace to push this Gardevoir up to 4 damage counters so that 3 can be moved off of each. Still has plenty of energy in the discard pile, and smartly bringing up the Lily's Clefairy, understanding that it's a much easier Pokemon to navigate next turn without having, compared to, this line needing you to use Psychic Embrace. We'll see the KO. Great sequencing here from Riley. Double Adrenabrain, Fan Rotom goes down, and now this Full Moon Rondo, thanks to that Fairy Zone ability, will do more than enough damage to KO this Raging Bolt EX and put Riley just 1 prize card away from winning game number 1.
And finds the secret box off of the prizes as well, so just so many great gas cards that even if Shizuki is able to find as one of Ino, Riley has a lot of outs to just play this out and to close this last prize that he needs.
And now if you're in Shizuki's spot, what do you do here? You're sitting on the ability to use 1 Jewel Seeker. If you don't remove this Stadium in play and the Noctowl, then the game is just on board here for Riley, assuming you can't KO the Gardevoir EX. And even if you do KO the Gardevoir EX, it does not matter. Riley will just re-promote this Lily's Clefairy EX. It's already powered up, and the Raging Bolt will go down 100%. It seems there's no better option here for Shizuki to take either a KO onto this active or somehow try and target a different Pokemon, but it seems no matter what decision he makes, if this Hoot stays in play, it's going to spell disaster.
Yeah, it's no matter what, it's not a good place to be. And we do see there the Jewel Seeker. You've got to imagine that Shizuki's going to be searching Ino here, but even with that, I mean, yeah, what do you do in this situation? You know, it is basically a checkmate board scenario staring down, and that's not a good position to be in.
Yeah, maybe your best play is to just go after the Lily's Clefairy and play Iono. That way you at least force your opponent to have either the, Nest Ball or way to search out the Screamtail, or a Night Stretcher to bring it back, the Lily's Clefairy back, that is, so you can hit the weakness. But at that same point, I think that actually is still just checkmate, right? We can't forget that you can always use that genome hacking to copy to copy Bellowing Thunder. So I really do wonder here for Shizuki, you're kind of just leaving your opponent with game on board if you, play Iono and KO this active.
Yeah, Bellowing Thunder does not care which type of basic energy that you retreat, or rather they discard in order to use it. So yeah, if you just bring up the Mew EX, put a bunch of energy on the side of the field, you can just go ahead and take the KO genome hacking on the Raging Bolt.
Seems that Riley has piloted this well, has built his board up, so essentially no matter what, he can be in a super solid spot. Now, Prime Catcher is found, so Shizuki's maybe got to think about how this works, but it's just going to kind of fall right into the trap. UEX can be promoted. Genome hacking is going to finish things out in style, as Riley will just use all these Psychic Embrace abilities, flood the board with energy cards, and we're going to see a Bellowing Thunder. Raikou getting a taste, Raging Bolt getting a taste of its own medicine here, taking a big Bellowing Thunder, and putting Riley just 1 game away from making it to another finals at back-to-back major tournaments.
Wow, and this is also, whilst the Raging Bolt deck does have options against Gardevoir with that single prize Raging Bolt, this is why in general it is such a tough matchup, because the Lily's Clefairy swings things so much. When you're taking 2 prize knockouts with a single prize, or even if it's just trade for trade, you just have so many options to deal with this Raging Bolt deck, and it's a really tough position if you're the Raging Bolt player in this matchup, and Riley's just demonstrated why massively in that game.
Let's take a look back at that game. Riley had an Suzuki had an excellent start, was just building up the board, using the early Thunderburst Storm, But Riley also just never faltered, and that seems to be the big point in this matchup. If both players do exactly what they want to do, it's really hard for Gardevoir to find a way to lose these games.
Yeah, what the Raging Bolt player really needs is to have a setup like SHIZUKI did, but then the Gardevoir player needs to miss beats. And even with SHIZUKI doing exactly what he needed to do, as you said, Riley just never missed a beat. Always had the right answer, very cleverly manipulated the mass with the fan Rotom so that later on Adrenaline could take a KO. And even though there was an INO at the end for SHIZUKI, setting up the checkmate board state so that the Mew could just come in at the end with the genome hacking, and that was pretty much all that she wrote as Riley very handily took this first game.
I think the big takeaway again is if SHIZUKI had removed that fan Rotom from play the turn the stadium was bumped,
yeah,
and denies that easy prize card, I think it's a really different game. I think Turo becomes a possibility if you put damage on the Hoot Hoot instead. Things will, play out differently. But if you're shuffling up for game 2, I feel like, as a competent player at the Pokemon TCG, you have to be thinking about what possibly went wrong in game 1 and how you can fix that in the second game.
Yeah, no one plays perfectly. Even at the high stages of competition like this, you're going to get nervous, you're going to make mistakes, and the only way you can power your way through them is to recognize those mistakes and try to do your best to recover in games 2 and 3 if you take a loss in the first game. Although this is going to be a good start for SHIZUKI, as once again, starting with that transformative start Ditto.
Honestly, that's just a skill issue, right? Like, if you're playing the Ditto in your deck and you're not starting it, then clearly you're playing the wrong deck. Your Pokemon do not love you enough. So it seems that SHIZUKI's got a great bond with his Ditto, has the Nest Ball as well, so plenty of basic Pokemon coming down this turn. SHIZUKI's going to have pretty easy way getting his board set up. Pheasantipity is in the prize cards this time. We didn't see it get used in that first game, but it is always an option to just make sure you have available, if possible, just to provide a little bit more consistency to your setup, and more importantly, towards the end of the game.
Yeah, now SHIZUKI's hand, just from what little glimpses I could gather, looked quite awkward. This might be one of those situations where you're looking towards that turn 1 bailout with the Squawkabilly EX. So we see, oh no, but at the same time,
there's too much.
There. Oh.
You cannot discard Prime Catcher.
No.
And this hand, honestly, with what it's working with, is more than fine. You've got Ultra Ball, Earthen Vessel for energy. This Nest Ball can grab the Teal Mask Ogerpon, so your Noctowl engine is set up. So, assuming that this Ditto is going to transform into Fan Rotom, just like the first game, I think SHIZUKI's going to be in an okay spot. Squawkabilly as well, just in this matchup, is probably one of the worst EX Pokemon to put into play, since Screamtail loves to see Squawkabilly EX on the bench.
You don't even need a Bravery Charm to get a KO on it with that. Yeah, 160 is a very nice number, as we do see there. The transformative start for that Teal Mask Ogerpon. Earthen Vessel coming in as well. We're going to discard that Chien-Pao. Can always access it later if you need it with a Night Stretcher, but not going to be useful this early on. And I guess with all of this in mind, it's not as ideal as game 1. I don't think we're going to be able to see that energy attachment onto the single prize Raging Bolt, which we saw was so effective in the first game.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision. I actually maybe would have liked to see SHIZUKI transform again into the baby Raging Bolt. That way you get that, again, turn 1 manual attachment down, because with the rest of the cards in SHIZUKI's hand, I'm not sure he can do both, right? Transform into this Teal Mask Ogerpon and get his board set up with the Hoot Hoot and Noctowl thanks to Fan Call. Definitely going to use the Fan Call, values how important that ability is this turn, but pending this Teal Dance doesn't draw into anything incredible. Missing that piece could be not the best. It is an Area 0 under depths, and interestingly enough, sequencing things in this way to use the Teal Dance first and then the Fan Call. Why is that, Freya?
Well, I think you do it this way around. You kind of can decide what is most optimal to get off the Fan Call, and now you do have the Ultra Ball in hand, so maybe you can still go for this Raging Bolt here. You can discard one of the Hoot Hoot with the Ultra Ball and something else you're not as fussed about, and then you can go ahead and bench that single prize Raging Bolt and put a Lightning Energy on it, and then your turn 1 setup is fine again.
So with the deck being shuffled, indicating, players not going back in with a searching card, this may be SHIZUKI missing a slight beat, which in this matchup is very, very important. Considering just not attaching an energy card for turn, and it's just going to pass. And again, I have to wonder if it would have been maybe slightly more optimal to just use this to transform into the Raging Bolt, and then next turn use that Ultra Ball to get yourself that Teal Mask Ogerpon.
Yeah, you have to wonder, but that's the decision that's been made. Clearly, again, SHIZUKI thinking a little bit differently in terms of how he wants to approach this, as we now go back to Riley, who has looks like a pretty okay start. 1 Nest Ball is always going to be a good thing going.
This is more than okay. Riley's Secret Box is back, and what's not okay, it's in the hand. We talk about what's good, and his setup is good, but yeah, there seems to be something wrong with our prize machine today, since it seems that every time I speak about the prize cards, it's always in some sort of negative fashion. 3 Darkness Energy, that means only 1 Dark left in the deck. Monkey Dory's in there as well, so as things stand right now, until there are knockouts taken, only one Adrenabrain will be online. We saw how valuable towards the mid and end game having two accesses to Adrenabrain at minimum every turn was in game number 1.
Yeah, I guess small saving grace is that we will see, you're saying, obviously, and you're very correctly so, that the Adrenabrain gets stronger towards the mid and late game. You know, Riley should be taking prizes, so by then, the Dark Energy should be coming out and you can get those Monkey Dory going. So maybe that could be okay in the long run. It's not something you necessarily need turn 1 as much.
So yet again, Riley's going to essentially duplicate how this first game went. Especially with these Dark Energy being prized, I would like to see him actually take the same approach, right? Not risking that Dark Energy early. Looks like we'll see another Technical Machine evolution thanks to the Secret Box grabbing any cards that Riley would even need or consider needing. Artisan to grab another Raltz play, can even just use that item card slot as something like the Earthen Vessel again to pitch more energies, Nest Ball for Clefairy down the line, just going to have so many different options.
Yeah, so we know those two Psychic Energies are going to be 2 of the discards from the Secret Box here. There's a few different cards in the hand that could be the third. Looks like it's going to be the Ultra Ball, which makes sense. With the amount of cards that are left in hand, you can't really make use of that Ultra Ball too effectively, so going to go ahead and grab one of each kind of trainer card that exists. That's what Secret Box does. So 1 item, 1 supporter, 1 stadium, and 1 tool, and those are a very good item, stadium, supporter, and tool that Riley just got.
Just on this first turn is essentially filtering the deck out of all the energy cards, getting them all in the discard pile, and also all the trainers that are not needed.
Yeah.
We'll see making sure we see exactly what's happening here. So it looks like Arvin is now being played as a supporter for turn. We haven't even seen a supporter played yet. It seems that
it's hard open the Secret Box, right?
Everything is just, you know, Riley is just finding everything he needs. And as a Gardevoir player, sometimes you feel unstoppable when you just open this hot. Game after game, Artisan can save, again, the Nest Ball for a following turn, whether it's Clefairy or Pheasantipity or Mew. Having that in hand, especially when Raging Bolt's really not going to be disrupting your hand on turn 2, opens up so many possibilities for you and how you want to play your turn.
Yeah, and quite cleverly here, even though there wasn't a Raging Bolt put down with an energy on it, Riley recognizing, maybe even being aware that Shizuki does play the energy switch, doesn't want to fall victim to a sudden Thunderburst Storm for 90 damage, still getting down that double Ralts for protection.
Yeah, and with there only being 1 Dark Energy in the deck, and now both Earthen Vessels committed, I would have hated to see Riley just grab the Dark Energy since you've already burnt 2/3 of your search for it. The last one is actually prized as well, so now there's no way to search Dark Energy out of the deck. Could have been an okay opportunity to just grab the Dark, keep it in hand, especially if you expect something like a Thunderburst Storm to possibly come out and your Monkey Dory to not be KO'd.
But in any case, still able to get out 2 earlier, so that's got to be a pretty good feeling. Now Shizuki can make use of that Artisan and probably will be going straight for that single prize Raging Bolt, as we've seen it be so effective before. But with no energy on it turn 1, it's going to be a little bit trickier than usual to get the free energy on it needed for a 90 damage Thunderburst Storm to take out one of these Curlier.
It's honestly pretty close here for Shizuki. I think he's got it in hand, right? The Crispin can accelerate 2 energy out of the deck. You can then Ultra Ball for Latias and now have free retreat on the Ogre Pawn, and then just use that Jewel Seeker ability to find energy switch. So all the pieces are there. The question now just comes to, does Shizuki want to commit himself to a Jewel Seeker and burn Asada, do all these things, if it means he's going to leave himself with potentially no energy in play if the Raging Bolt is KO'd early on?
Yeah, and I guess the other debate is, if you can get free energy onto this Raging Bolt, there is a universe in which you consider, maybe I want to use that second attack, the Dragon Headbutt, KO the Monkey Dory. We saw how devastating it was in the last game. And with 2 Curlier already being out and knowing you can't really prevent a Gardevoir from coming out, maybe you just value more denying those Adrenabrain options.
It's tough because you know your opponent is playing 4 and they have very easy access. If it did have the Dark Energy, I would maybe understand it a little bit more. A lot of the times in this matchup specifically, if the Monkey does not have a Dark Energy, you usually have bigger fish to fry, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You'll see the Jewel Seeker be used. Earthen Vessel is going to discard the Lightning Energy, meaning potentially Shizuki, instead of using this Professor Sada before the Jewel Seeker, wants to get a second Ancient Pokemon to be put onto the bench so that Professor Sada can accelerate the full 2 energy from the discard pile.
Yeah, I like it. That makes sense to me. You just want to get as much energy onto the field every single turn that you can. We know that there is going to be a single prize Raging Bolt attack coming in. Did go for that energy switch already and has that ready to go, but you need a follow-up afterwards, and getting the Raging Bolt set up is going to be the way to do that.
Yeah, I was debating which energy to grab. I like grabbing the grass energy here a lot, right? You keep the grass energy in hand, and that means if you don't find one, you attach it. But if you find a different type, this Teal Mask is always hungry for energy attachments every turn with that Teal Dance ability.
Yeah, so very, very smart there from SHIZUKI. Oh, you see that now the Teal Dance coming in.
Oh, interesting.
Just going to go for that preemptively first.
Oh, it looks like there is a fighting energy in hand. So
okay.
both issues are essentially solved. Use that first. You never know if you just draw into it another Pokemon that you want. You maybe don't have to burn the Ultra Ball. With there being just one energy in the deck, or discard pile, excuse me, seems like an okay spot to use this. The only thing is, the second card to discard of Ultra Ball is a little bit awkward. You've got 3 energy acceleration cards, Iono, Prime Catcher, and Energy Switch. And interestingly enough, it's just going to use the Professor Sada now. I would have actually really loved to see just the Professor Sada played first, and then making different plays if you were going to play something like Ultra Ball, but taking a little bit of a different path when it comes to sequencing. The attachment for turn, Latios is not down, so instead, this Ogre Pawn will retreat, and then the Energy Switch will put the 3rd energy, and it is a question now which attack you want to use, but targeting Kirlia, never a bad idea.
No, I think you can make an argument for either one. I do, so thinking about it more, what you said about given that there's no dark energy on the Monkey Dory, it makes more sense to probably target one of the Kirlios overall, because it's not like you're taking a dark energy and a already activated Monkey out of play. So there it is. For Thunderburst Storm, 90 damage, one the Kirlia goes down, and SHIZUKI takes the first prize of this game too.
What a solid hand. Oh my, did he just top deck Ultra Ball? He top deck Ultra Ball.
Oh my goodness.
This game is so easy. Honestly, this is Riley's world, and we're just living in it at this point. Ultra Ball is going to get rid of the Nest Ball. I actually would have liked to potentially just see Nest Ball get played there early to grab Fez. Then you draw cards. You have a little bit better fodder at this point. Kind of feels pretty bad to get the card you just searched out of your deck and pitch it away with Ultra Ball, but it seems like a struggling with success type of problem, and there are worse problems to have in life for sure.
Yeah, there is. And also, to be fair, how many times has a Gardevoir player ended up losing to Ranger Bolt or another deck just because you benched that Fezandipity and it ended up being an easy to knock out liability for 2 prizes? So if you can avoid benching it, it makes sense not to, and I think that's what Riley's considering here in not putting this down.
Another Ultra Ball is found, as well as a Counter Catcher, one shuffled to the bottom of the deck. And I wonder again if Riley is just content doing exactly what he did in game number 1. KO the Hoot Hoot with the Roaring Scream from the Scream Tail, leave the opponent with just the Baby Raging Bolt in play, essentially limiting their options on what they have access to. It feels like that's got to be solid.
Yeah, I mean, you know that this deck lives or dies by the ability to make use of Jewel Seeker, because it's not like the other version of the Raging Bolt where you have other options to draw through. So if you can just go ahead and take out this Hoot Hoot, you cut off all of their consistency and all their ability to search for the best options to counter whatever you're doing. So yeah, targeting down the Hoot Hoot just makes so much sense here, and it's no surprise to see Riley taking this approach again as he did in game 1.
Leaving himself with a really solid hand to work with next turn. There it is, Roaring Scream, card that just fits so perfectly in Gardevoir EX, putting in work. Hoot Hoot is KO'd. Now SHIZUKI. The prize lead is tied up now at 5, and notably there is not a Ralts in play for Riley, so even without the Noctowl's Jewel Seeker, if SHIZUKI is able to find something like the Prime Catcher KO onto Gardevoir EX, it could potentially mean that once the Scream Tail is dealt with later on, Riley's ability to reset up a Gardevoir EX could be his downfall if it's not found with something like Rare Candy Gardevoir.
Yeah, and I mean, the Prime Catcher, of course, is at the bottom of the deck after that Iono, so yeah, unless you get the deck shuffle, but there it is. The Earthen Vessel gets the deck shuffled nicely to give you the chance to find that Prime Catcher again, so that's something at least. Yeah,
the deck just always finds a way to get shuffled in the turn. Even after Iono, there's always a world where those cards are going to come back to the top. It is the Earthen Vessel and Ultra Ball being played. The Fezandipity is still in the prize cards. That would have been an excellent Pokemon to find in this spot, but it is just unavailable. And SHIZUKI maybe not taking note of that. Looking through the deck, I actually don't think there's anything else in this hand. This could have been a little bit of a misstep here for SHIZUKI, thinking that he could rely. Again, we can never get into the opponent's heads, but with how he, searched through his deck and body language, it seems like not checking to see if that card was there could have led him to go for a slightly different play, leaving himself with just 2 cards in hand, now benching the Hoot Hoot, and you could KO this active, but yeah, it seems that there's nothing else that can be done. Both Teal Dances used, no supporter card, and just going to be a Thunderburst Storm on the active, taking a KO. Riley has got to smell blood in the water at this point.
We were just saying about how Shizuki was doing very well to not tunnel vision, even given the current board state. Maybe now finally falling victim to that. Yeah, just like you said with the body language, kind of maybe assuming that the Pheasantipity was there, but realizing that it wasn't. And now, sure, you deal with the screen tail, but it is not that hard for Riley to get it back. And if Riley can get it back, you just go ahead and KO this Hoot Hoot again, and Shizuki is going to feel mega stuck.
One of those Dark Energy was found off the prizes for Riley, so just going to go Night Stretcher 1,
Wow.
Night Stretcher 2, has the counter catcher in hand, and is going to actually do this exact play. Go after the Knock Towel, set up another turn where Hoot Hoot is going to get KO'd, thanks to the Roaring Scream, and you can just draw an additional 7 cards off Professor's Research. Really is still looking for that Ralt, does not find it. However, there is the last recovery card now in hand. Just going to check through the deck and see what is available. Once again, that third Ralt is in the prize card, so Riley is now considering, is it worth playing my last recovery card to find Ralt and put it into play? That means something like Clefairy down the line can't be recovered, so a big decision being made here from Riley, shutting himself off from recovery for the rest of the game.
So, if you're just joining us, welcome. We are in the top 4 of the Masters Division trading card game competition here at the Pokemon 2025 World Championships. This game, this match will determine who will be our first person to advance into Championship Sunday, our finals match held in the arena just next door. Currently, Riley McKay is 1 game up, and I mean, just from what we can see on the board so far, is looking in a very good position to take this game to end the match and to be the first one to lock up their spot in the finals. But it's not over yet. We've got to see how the rest plays out.
As a wise man once said, it's never over till it's over. Adrenabrain is online, and we may just see the exact same thing happen again. First Adrenabrain used, 3 damage counters onto the Fan Rotom, and Roaring Scream yet again, putting in work. Now the question here for Shizuki, is there even a way to move this out of the active spot? Another Nest Ball is here, so you could get down potentially the final Hoot Hoot? No, there isn't even another Hoot Hoot in the deck. Both have been the targets of KOs, so at this point, Jewel Seeker, not a potential option. And if you've ever watched this Raging Bolt deck play without the help of Jewel Seeker, I'm sorry to my Raging Bolt fans out there, but this deck is a pile. It really struggles to function.
Even as a Raging Bolt player, I've got to agree. Like, that's maybe one of the reasons why I preferred shifting to the non-bird version, even though that one has issues of its own. But yeah, if you're relying on this engine and you don't have access to it, it is just so hard to get going. It's going to have to be energy retrieval to get back a couple of energy, and maybe 1 Teal Dance to try and find an out to this horrendous hand and position that Shizuki has found himself in. Teal Dance for 1. What's the draw off the top of the deck? What was that?
Looks like a Night Stretcher, so now there's options to potentially use another Teal Dance. Area 0 Underdepths is in play, so if you want to here, you could play the Night Stretcher to get Hoot Hoot back yet again, which I think would be a little bit more appealing if there was Knock Towel, but with there being no Knock Towel down, and with your prize cards, only one of them is super helpful. I guess actually, with Professor Turo being in the prizes, it kind of makes it so that you're essentially 50-50, or rather, yeah, you're essentially 50-50 on taking a good prize card to help you out. You either take the Pheasantipity, or you can take the Professor Turo. So with that in mind, I actually would like to see Shizuki play this Night Stretcher to get Hoot Hoot back, because if you're not putting something cool together next turn, you're probably not winning this game, and this is a do-or-die situation.
It really is do-or-die to just, not even to win the match, but just to keep yourself in contention. You're already a game down. You have to take some risks here, as we do see now indicating that another Teal Dance used, but
no, both have been used. So
okay,
we're just marking, you know, everything is done. And now the choice is just, what do you KO? There's not 4 energy. Screamtail will once again go down. And an important point to note, with there being no recovery left, that is the end of Screamtail for this match. No more Roaring Screams can be used.
Okay, so that is also factors into it, right? That makes that Hoot Hoot bench a lot safer. But here we see straight away the counter catcher coming in to take out this Raging Bolt EX.
Pending that there is a Lily's Clefairy, a lot of those searching cards have been played, so here we go. Big 7 cards for Riley. If he can find Monkey Dory, Dark Energy, plus Lily's Clefairy, he can do another 3 prize turn here and go after these Pokemon. With there being 2 Dark Energy, and with, I believe, the other Dark in the discard pile, I'm not sure it's possible, but here we go. Big 3 cards. Needs to find the Lily's Clefairy. Last card. Does he find it? No, does not find it. Now he may have to adjust his strategy slightly on which attacker does he want to do it. How could you not be upset? You're so close to essentially locking up this second game, pending you could find a way to KO this Raging Bolt.
Yeah, and especially what's rough for Riley is that you play the countercatcher targeting this Raging Bolt knowing you really wanted to take it down, but you can't really do that anymore, and you also can't stall it in the active because that Latias is now down with the Skyliner ability, which gives it free retreat.
And even going to just play the Artisan, removing the Fan Rotom for SHIZUKI, getting rid of the damage and the liability, discarding down unneeded Pokemon. At least it's going to be able to search the deck with Artisan, but I really don't think there's anything in there. You see, the Lily's Clefairy was in the deck, but there was just no way to search it out. Needed to draw into that exact copy because of how many searching cards were played early on. And it looks like I may actually be incorrect on the counts because it seems there is still another Night Stretcher potentially in the deck. We'll have to get confirmation of that and see if Riley does have a way to bring back one of these Pokemon.
So in the meantime, at least, we do see free Psychic Embrace going onto this Gardevoir. That's going to be 6 extra damage done. You can move at least 3 of it off with this Adrenabrain, but then it's going to be a Miracle Force for not quite a KO, which, to be fair, Gardevoir likes not quite taking KOs, so not really the worst position to be in.
Yeah, and this Raging Bolt has no energy on it right now, so it would need to require a little bit in terms of being able to get knocked out. Leave one Night Stretcher still left in the deck, so Riley has options pending a Pokemon comes back or if he wants to reuse one of these attackers. So here we go.
Also, important to note, SHIZUKI actually did take the Professor Tourist scenario off of the prizes, but discarded the Noctowl. So there's no way to guarantee a Dual Seeker this turn unless we draw one off the top.
Yeah, it's a really interesting choice. It almost always, seems counterintuitive to get rid of that. But what better choice did SHIZUKI have in this spot? You either discard the Latias EX and deny free retreat, you discard the Hoot Hoot, which denies you the Dual Seeker you're trying to build, or one of these Pokemon on the bench that just have so many energy attached to them. Maybe it's supposed to be that Teal Mask with 1 energy on it.
Yeah, I think so, right? Because with that, if you have the Tourist scenario, at least you have an option to Dual Seeker, but now you have, nothing. You just left yourself in a completely stuck position. Perhaps a slight misstep from SHIZUKI here with that Tourist scenario.
Potentially, at worst, though, you can still just use this to pick up the Raging Bolt that had all the damage, essentially negating the previous turn, and that Kirlia on the bench is still prime for the picking with this Thunderburst Storm attack. And going down to 2 prize cards, never a bad spot in this matchup when there are plenty of Pokemon at Riley's board that will be knocked out from a powerful Bellowing Thunder. The big piece still missing, though, is there is just not a way for SHIZUKI to draw cards in this capacity.
So he takes the boss's orders off of the prizes. 2 prize cards left for SHIZUKI to try and clutch up this game too. But now here's the draw from Riley. What does he find? There's a Mew EX. Not going to be much help here.
It's interesting because you could, if you wanted to, if you're Riley, use Mew EX to copy Thunderburst Storm to KO the Hoot Hoot. And then from there, if you put a Bravery Charm on your Mew, it would require the Teal Mask Ogerpon to have an additional 2 energy, since you put yourself to 250 HP, or 230 HP, so 6 energy Myriad Leaf Shower would be 210.
Yes.
So you would force your opponent to essentially have to find 2 Grass Energy. Instead, is just going to go ahead and play the Iono, benches the Flutter Mane. It is a way to, shut off some of the abilities of the Pokemon in play. And importantly, will draw 4 cards, does find the Darkness Energy. That means another Monkey Dory at minimum will be online, and now Riley has to make sure he can use things like Flip the Script without Deck Out being a potential factor. I think with another Iono in hand, he should be safe to just go ahead and draw these cards and just have more options for this turn.
Yeah, it's always something you have to be careful of when your deck is this thin. You like your deck being quite thin because that means you're more likely to draw into exactly what you need, but you also don't want to go so far that you end up with running out of cards. And of course, one of the ways you can lose in the Pokemon trading card game, if you can't draw a card at the start of your turn, you do lose. So you've got to be mindful of that. Riley is a professional. I think we know that he's going to make sure to not fall victim to that and has kept his deck nicely because of that. As now we see, coming in with the Flutter Mane to attack with that Hex
And Riley is setting up to take 2 prize cards this turn. Can use the Adrenabrain abilities to put this Hoot Hoot to 6 damage counters. And thanks to the Fairy Zone ability on Lily's Clefairy, can KO with this Hex Hurl on the active, as well as KO the Hoot Hoot on the bench with the damage counters, leaving SHIZUKI with nothing in hand, no options, no draw, and just 2 prize cards away from being a finalist here at the World Championships. And he's doing this all with the 1 prize Pokemon in the active spot. It looks like the doors are closing on SHIZUKI in this second game of top 4.
You can tell SHIZUKI was a little thrown off there, not thinking about, of course, like with the Lily's Clefairy in play, Hexhurl does 180 to the now Psychic Weak Raging Bolt and can split the damage up 1-1 to KO the Hoot Hoot for good measure as well. A really, really strong turn from Riley.
And just nothing in hand. We'll have to use this Artisan to find something like Koraidon to take the KO. There is a world, Freya, where SHIZUKI can still win this game. Even with Serendipity prize, Prime Catcher is still available. And since one of your Pokemon were knocked out on the previous turn, that Koraidon can take a KO on the Serendipity thanks to it being weak, dealing double damage. Doesn't have the energy in hand yet, doesn't have the Prime Catcher, so we need to see almost a perfect combination of cards. But this is when you need to clutch up here. SHIZUKI, you've had ups and downs. Let's see if you can find this piece. Big 3 cards off this Professor. Sada's Vitality.
Do you find an energy and a Prime Catcher? 1, 2,
No, there's nothing there. Just Ultra Ball and Boss. But Ultra Ball will do nothing for SHIZUKI here. There is no Pokemon out of the deck that will give him any support. No semblance of hope. And you can do absolutely nothing in this spot. Bring up a 1-prizer, buy yourself some time. But if there's another way to gust Pokemon up, if there's a way for you to take a KO on a 2-prizer, it's all over.
Yeah, it's so close. SHIZUKI finding a perhaps marginal way to come back in this game with the Koraidon, but just not able to find it. So instead, you're going to use Skyliner, retreat into this Koraidon, and I guess just pass. But I think doesn't Riley have all the pieces to close this out?
No, I'm not sure because the bench is full and there's no way to gust since they're both tied at 2 prizes apiece.
So, yeah, the counter catcher isn't live.
But the big issue is this was your win condition to take a KO. If you just knock out the Koraidon, nothing changes on Riley's side, right? You're just going to keep yourself in the same spot. Your opponent still has 2 prize cards left. And now Riley understands the only way I lose this game is if my opponent somehow finds a weird way to go around. That's why we see the energy preemptively attached to Serendipity, and he'll make sure he leaves enough energy cards in the discard pile. Even playing the Bravery Charm down onto the Serendipity, going to make it as hard as possible to take this KO. Unrelenting Onslaught will still do enough to take the KO through weakness, so the Bravery Charm does not prevent that. And an Iono to follow things up to reset SHIZUKI's hand yet again. Big question now, though. How do we take a KO onto this thing? I actually don't know if we can take a KO. It is not weak to... Oh, it is weak to Psychic.
It's just naturally weak to Psychic,
It's a fighting Pokemon again. It is weak to Psychic, so a Fairy Zone built in. Let's see what we can do here for SHIZUKI. Is there any pieces? The hand is completely dead. SHIZUKI has absolutely no options. He's going to check the deck here with this Artisan, but there are no basic Pokemon, no way to accelerate energy, and no matter what you do, Riley has answers for every single option. He can think, he can debate, and figure out what's best in this spot, but the writing is absolutely on the wall.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and retreat into this Latias, and this is going to be it for Riley. If he has a Psychic Energy in the discard pile, he'll go through and check, and it is there. Gardevoir EX can attack with the Miracle Force, and after an NAIC Finals appearance, Riley McKay is going back to another major final, taking the KO with Gardevoir EX, and moving on to the World Championship Finals.
If a fist bump is a handshake, it doesn't matter either way. Riley McKay has punched his ticket into Championship Sunday at the arena here in Anaheim at the 2025 World Championships. That's got to be a good feeling.
You got to give credit to this kid. I mean, if you told me Riley McKay would make back-to-back finals at NAIC and at Worlds a month and a half ago, I would not have believed you. If you told me the day before NAIC that he would do that, if you told me the Saturday of NAIC, I would not tell you he would do that. He is proving everyone wrong and showing why he deserves to be here at the top level of competitive Pokemon TCG.
Sometimes all it takes is one big breakout performance to give you that confidence to know I can crack it with the best in the world. And now, having just come off the back of, as you mentioned, the NAIC Finals, another major finals at the most prestigious tournament in our entire competitive season, and you can tell he's taking it all in. I think he's maybe in a little bit of shock that just happened.
Get ready for tomorrow, bud. You're going to be in the arena. Big match coming up. You see all smiles and great sportsmanship again from SHIZUKI, showcasing and doing his best that he could, but it was just a little bit of lackluster draws in game number 2 that led to Riley McKay advancing to Championship Sunday with the chance to become a world champion. That set was back and forth, and it's always a treat when we get 2 incredible players playing 2 distinctly different but super strong decks.
Yeah, super strong decks. And a super strong performance from SHIZUKI as well. As we already talked about, it's not as if his deck wasn't firing, right? He was doing the right things, setting up the single prize Rage Report in game 1 very effectively, but Riley just had the right answers every single time. coming in with the Liddy's Clefairy for the KO, coming in at the end with the genome hacking on the Mew to copy Bellowing Thunder to give Raging Bolt EX a taste of its own medicine. And then we're proceeding on to get game 2, similar kind of story. Yeah, there was another Raging Bolt set up with a single prizer, but just picking off these hoots with the Roaring Scream on the Scream Tail was really what made the difference.
And you have to think back into the second game. If Shizuki knows, again, it's not a huge difference maker at the end of the day, whether he knows Pheasantipodes in deck or not, it wouldn't, make a difference. You're still, most likely playing the Ultra World. Maybe you don't discard both of those energy cards. It's slightly different, but Riley used every trick up his sleeve. Even the Fluttermane got in there and made this really cool play. Double Adrenabrain onto the bench, taking a KO. It did the same there. There was a glimmer of hope for Shizuki if he can find a crazy combination. We saw Piper do that in top 8. It wasn't there, and Riley closed the doors out.